Give it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 test on audio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 test on audio. All right, guys, we're good. We'll see you at in 5 minutes at 6 minutes after the hour. Welcome in. Please like and share the post, everybody, please.
In addition to.
Mics and cameras are up. What's up, everybody? Boys and girls, welcome in. Happy Independence Day, brought to you by Citizens with Guns. Let's get started. Ooh, this drives me crazy when I see that.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Kahr Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center on the Sig Sauer Platinum microphone. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast is live on hundreds of radio stations across the nation to wrap up your Independence Day weekend. By the way, happy Independence Day weekend brought to you by citizens with guns. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Fresh off my freedom.
You're fresh off your freedom. Come on, it's not over yet, man.
No, it's not.
Trump has been kicking butt and taking names and driving liberals nuts all weekend. I've been loving every second of it, I have to be honest with you. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, has just been a hoot to read. Musk is going nuts. Oh, it's crazy.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't believe the national media, okay? All right, all the crap you're reading about the bill. If the liberals are going nuts, you know you're winning. It's pretty much that simple, and they're all going nuts. None other than Chris Murphy, man. He has just been so fun to read lately. The guy's losing his marbles. What Trump does to these people is just so much fun to watch. But, Greg, we are on Facebook.com/Armed American Radio Live. You can watch us over at, Greg?
Over at AAR Mark. Say again?
You can watch us at AAR Mark on X, right?
On X, yeah. I'm sorry. I was just looking at it. So it looks like we've got a video issue on X, and I was just kind of doing that all as you went to me. So, yeah, you can watch the show over on YouTube and Rumble and just search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. On X, it's at AAR Mark. You can also head on over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, click that watch live or listen live option. And if you want to join our chat, well, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversation.
Yeah, and that's funny because I mentioned Musk, and all of a sudden X goes down.
yeah, and I think Rumble's getting the same issue. I was doing all of that as you were introducing me. Sorry about that.
I tell you, that's we're good here. I mean, check us out over on Facebook and everywhere else, ladies and gentlemen. I can't help that. It looks like it might be an issue somewhere. I don't know, but I can tell you that it's all good here. So
it's the feds tapping in. NSA doesn't want y'all to see Mark today.
It does happen from time to time. There's no question about it. So hopefully that fixes itself. Yeah, because there's nothing we can do about it. All systems are go here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what else to tell you. But after all, it is a radio show, Greg, so you can tune in
at
armedamericanradio.com and click listen live until the video gets itself back up. But
probably a cable.
Yeah, cable. It ain't coming from over here. Magic wand. Pff, there we go. So I've been looking forward to this show all week, actually. I had a great weekend. Did you have a good weekend, Greg? Celebrating your independence and freedom? What a fun weekend, right?
Yes. I spent a lot of time sitting on my freedom, and we did a lot of grilling, just did a lot of chores around the house, relaxing.
I did what others are telling me is the best pork barbecue I've ever cooked or smoked, I should say.
I made some
this
ribs.
Weekend, it was just I could have sold it out of the back of a truck. I know that. It was really
nice.
Good. Yeah, it was that good. And I do the Eastern Carolina Q and I make my own Eastern Carolina sauce. Those of you who know Eastern Carolina barbecue or Southern barbecue, for me, I grew up eating Eastern Carolina, which is apple cider vinegar, red pepper flakes, salt and pepper, shaken in a mason jar that used to be filled with moonshine. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff is just the best with a slab of coleslaw on top of it on a, soggy. I mean, it's just the way to do it. Yeah. Others like the Lexington Western sauce, a little bit of ketchup and sugar in there. Hey, that's good too. I like it all. But that's what I grew up in. And this stuff was just dynamite. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed, your holiday weekend like we enjoyed ours here. But I've been looking forward to this show all week long because so much is happening out there. So let's get started. I want to start by telling you we have a lot of new listeners. I know we just added a bunch of new stations, Greg, and I don't have the list up. I'll see if I can find that during a break. But I want to welcome all of you in. If you're listening on a new station out there, a new affiliate, we appreciate it. Thank you and welcome. This is your show where we celebrate the unalienable right to keep and bear arms enshrined in our Constitution, and we shine a spotlight on the victories this week in particular. We shine a spotlight on the losses as well. But there were a lot of victories this week, and those victories keep the right alive for every law-abiding American. The show belongs to you. You're not going to hear the other side here ever. They get enough airtime. This show belongs to you. So grab a seat, turn up the volume, and as I tell you every week, put on your seatbelt because the hours fly by. Let's dive into some of the latest battles that were won in defense of our Second Amendment over the past couple weeks. It's been a heck of a week for freedom-loving Americans. It really has, Greg. You know that. And the Second Amendment being under constant attack from those who would rather see us disarmed and defenseless every single day, as Ryan Petty says, he will be here in the third hour. The left will never stop. They will never stop. They want to see us disarmed and defenseless. That's their ultimate goal. That's their MO. But the good news is that the tide is turning. From courtrooms to state houses, the fight to protect our constitutional rights is gaining ground. And we've got some major wins at our back to unpack today. Whether you're our hunter, whether you're a competitive shooter, whether you're a concealed carry permit holder, whether you live in a state that's constitutional carry, whether you're a FUD or just a plain old proud American who believes in the right to self-defense and the right to bear arms, well, this show's for you. We've got a lot going, so let's get started with some of the victories. First up, seismic win out of California. Yeah, California again. The state that's been I guess, Greg, we can call California, it's been a battleground for Second Amendment rights for decades, right? I guess.
It's getting bad out there. It's a battleground for everything.
Well, just a few days ago on July 2nd, we saw a double dose of victory in the Golden State. And it's driving Governor Gavin Newsom insane, and Attorney General Rob Bonta, they're shaking in their boots out there. Because the Firearms Policy Coalition, in conjunction with the Second Amendment Foundation and other backers, including the NRA, et cetera, and other pro-Second Amendment groups, have just been relentless in going after California, and the hard work is paying off. 2 blockbuster cases out in California. One we've already spoken about, Wynn v. Bonta, and the other Hoffman v. Bonta. In Wynn v. Bonta, ladies and gentlemen, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circus I refer to them as, has delivered a unanimous smackdown to California's so-called one gun a month. Wiped it out. Now, appeals coming, yes, we expect that from California, but still a huge win. For reason being that the way this was written, we're going to talk about this in greater detail today as I set this up for you in these 2 segments. But the draconian restrictions, which limited law-abiding citizens to purchasing just 1 firearm every 30 days, was ruled flat out unconstitutional. The court said it loud and clear in California. You can't put an arbitrary cap on a constitutional right. And as we mentioned in previous shows, imagine the government telling you can only speak at 1 protest a month, right? Or attend 1 church service every 30 days. I think Paul Markle and I were talking about that last week. It's absurd. But that's exactly what the Ninth Circuit said about this law regarding the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment Foundation, of course, heavily involved. One of the plaintiffs called it, quote, a victory for all who believe in the fundamental right to keep and bear arms. And they're not wrong. But that's not all from California. There's more. Hoffman v. Bonta alongside Mate v. Westcott, the court struck down California's ban on non-residents carrying firearms as well. So, yeah, in California. These lawsuits are huge, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's California, but if you travel there, this matters to you. Even if you don't, these laws are falling one at a time. And Americans visiting or moving through California, traveling through the state, can now exercise their Second Amendment rights without being treated like second-class citizens. These are a direct rebuke to the anti-gun agenda that's been strangling that state for years. And if you've paid any attention at all to X, formerly known as Twitter, I guess I could say it's just buzzing with excitement, Greg, with people talking about this. You know, folks are calling this a major loss for Newsom and his allies in the state legislature. And let me tell you, when California, which fair to say is the heart of gun control extremism, starts losing in court, California and New York, you know the Second Amendment's on the march, and you know we're winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's just a fact. You wouldn't disagree with that, would you?
No, and I see states like Illinois also on that track as well, falling behind those 2 states. So, and Massachusetts and New Jersey and other really difficult states just to exercise your Second Amendment right.
Absolutely. And we're not. How much time do we have? I know we're getting ready to take
a minute.
All right, we got a minute. So let me cover some more of these bullet points for you. But the U.S. said it's not just been it's not just been California, it's been the national stage as well. So we're going to talk in great detail today about what the Senate did, because the Senate made waves this week with the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Of course, the House did, and the Senate by adding in the short-barreled rifle, the SBR deal. Tucked into the massive piece of legislation was a provision that's got the Second Amendment advocates like us cheering, or are we? That's the kicker. Are we cheering when Trump signed the bill? Details are, I guess I can say they're still emerging because there's a new lawsuit. We'll talk about that coming up. But the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action is urging every single gun owner out there to thank their senators for pushing the bill forward and the representatives because it dismantled the bureaucratic red tape that's been choking our rights, and that being the $200 tax stamp. But it didn't go far enough, did it? Because of the parliamentarian in the Senate. We're going to break all that down. We're going to dig deeper into what the bill means for you later in the show with our guest Stephen Gutowski, Dr. John Lott, who will be here live from Brazil, also heading to Argentina tomorrow at a Classic Armed American Radio Roundtable. So buckle in. When we come back, you've got me for one more segment, and then we're going to bring Stephen Gutowski in to wrap it all up for you. Don't go away.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
Is the audio good on the stream, guys?
Yeah, audio seems to be fine. It's like your camera is just not it's not on.
Well, it is. Yeah, okay.
It's not providing video.
Audio. So, okay, guys, I'm not sure why that's happening, but as long as you've got audio, you're good. I guess I can cut the camera and try it one more time, but everything is lit up here properly, so I don't know what's happening. It's almost like it happened right after I went after Musk. Wait, is that also happening at Facebook too? I guess it is.
I don't know. I'm not over on the Facebook stream.
Okay, so that's a software issue that has nothing to do with me. Unfortunately, guys, I apologize. But after all, it is a radio show.
It is. That means you can drink on video and it don't matter on camera. You can drink your Red Bulls as we're sitting here doing the show.
I do anyway.
I know.
I do, don't I, guys? I do.
But nobody's going to see it this time.
Yeah, nobody's going to see it. That's okay. That's okay. I don't get to see my mug today, unless it pops back up. Don't know. Don't know. We were all fine in the pre-show tests. Can't tell you why technology does what it does. Maybe, Greg, maybe we have to switch our video software again.
It might have to happen.
Might have to do it. And I am currently using the most popular podcast video software on the market. I won't name it. Riverside. It's a bummer because all pre-show tests went great. So,
yep.
Started out great. Kind of interesting because it was at the exact time I mentioned Musk that I heard you saying, well, looks like we've got a problem at X.
I was seeing people in the chat posting about it, and I'm not over on X. I'm on all the other platforms right now.
Looks like Rumble is spinning. Looks like Facebook is now spinning. And looks like X is now back up. So, guys, looks like we've got video again. So,
yeah, I see the logo spinning.
There we go.
On YouTube and at the, it's the... Okay,
that's what I have up. So it's live. You're good, guys.
I was gonna say because your actual screen is just blacked out. It looks like little.
Yeah, that's because I have the camera turned off,
30.
so the logo is showing. So.
All right.
Yeah, so we're good. All right, guys. Looks like we got video back.
We'll see once we get back into the video portion.
I won't talk about Musk again. Yeah, Susie in the chat says the logo works, but not the video. This is the first time I've seen the logo spinning again, so we'll check it out. Let's bring the camera back up.
Here we go.
And that
The
following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, so for all you videoholics out there, it seems that for whatever reason the camera is not putting up from the studio today, but the spinning logos are. So you've got audio, so that's good. All right, you can listen. You can listen to the show anyway. You just don't get to see me. That's all right. Maybe, just maybe, that software will fix itself. We shall see. Other than that, welcome back. National Rifle Association is presenting this show in its entirety, 6 days a week. Remember, and these things are going quick. Join the National Rifle Association using the AAR promo code. You get the range bag for free. We've got under 700 of them now because they're flying off the shelves, ladies and gentlemen. When they're gone, they're gone. It's not a contest. You don't have to win it. Just join the NRA for 1 year or 3 years, and you get the range bag with the AAR promo code and a discount on your price. If you go for 3 years or 5 years, you're going to get the 10x42 binoculars, and they are super high quality. Take your pick. Pick your poison. Brought to you by the National Rifle Association. So join us. We need your assistance over there. The NRA is doing amazing work with the ILA now. This is not the old NRA. You know the routine. Help us. Look forward, not backward. We need to bring the NRA from the 800-pound gorilla back up to the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room, okay? It's very important. Do that. Take advantage of the range bag. Because I'm not on camera, I can't show you the range bag. If it pops back on, well, lo and behold, I'll show you the range bag and the binoculars because I have them right here in the studio with me. Welcome back in. Let's continue the conversation. Talking about momentum and shifting gears, right? We had a lot of problems with the National Firearms Act moving back and forth between the House and Senate. Now, is it a victory because we wiped out the $200 tax stamp? Yeah, that's a victory. I'll take it. It's a partial victory. It's not a full victory. Are gun rights advocates cheering? A lot of them are. I am. But I'm not cheering like I could be or should be. All right? But I want to read you something, if I can find this quickly, because so important, because guess what's happening now? Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, National Rifle Association are now suing to wipe out the registration requirements as unconstitutional because it was put in place because of the tax. There's no more tax. Registration is no longer necessary. And folks, I feel good about this. Alan Gottlieb couldn't be here with us today. It's a holiday weekend. We gave a lot of people the day off today. But I will tell you that we all feel really, really, really good about this. Now, I'll read that to you in a later part of the program. But nonetheless, that's it in a gist. Another lawsuit coming, and we're going to win it. Simple as that. So, as I was saying in the previous segment to close out, the National Rifle Association, the Institute for Legislative Action, is urging every one of us to thank our senators and our congressmen, okay? It is a step forward in dismantling the bureaucratic red tape that's been choking our rights. And it's proof, ladies and gentlemen, it just truly is that when we stand together, we can move mountains in D.C., but we have to stand together. We're going to dig deeper into what this bill means for you later in the show. But for now, the momentum is on your side. And speaking of momentum, I want to give a shout out to the state of Delaware, too, where the 2025 legislative session just wrapped up. And guess what they did? They passed no new anti-gun laws. While the gun control crowd is pushing their usual playbook, pro-Second Amendment lawmakers held the line in Delaware. And the session ended with rights intact, at least what they have. And see, New Jersey, same thing. A package of anti-gun bills stalled out in Trenton, leaving the anti-gunners completely empty-handed. So these are quiet victories, okay? As I say often, a victory in New Jersey and Maryland and any other anti-gun state is not how far we advance, sadly, but how few anti-gun bills do. So they're quiet victories that don't make a lot of headlines, but they do matter. Those victories matter almost as much as advancing forward because it stops the anti-gunners in their tracks. Every time a state legislature adjourns without infringing on our rights, that's a win for freedom. Now we need to flip it and get real wins in there. Start getting some pro-gun legislation in. New Jersey's going to be a fun state to watch. New Jersey could flip red. Pay careful attention to New Jersey. There is a lot going on. Next week, we'll be talking with John Petrolino and others about the efforts out there. Well, I should say this week because we'll be talking about it on the Daily Defense. But let's not stop there because the Second Amendment Foundation celebrating another milestone with the passage of what they're calling the one big beautiful victory, right? Tied to the Senate bill. The Second Amendment Foundation's out there, get this, fighting 55-plus active cases nationwide right now. And they're not slowing down. From protecting right to carry to ensuring you can buy the firearms you need. Folks, the Second Amendment Foundation is nothing but warriors. That's all it is, warriors for liberty. And if you're not a member, you owe them a debt of gratitude. If you are a member, we owe you a debt of gratitude because you're a part of it like I am. What about Supreme Court? Supreme Court seems to be dodging some fights right now. It's true that back on June 2nd, the court declined to hear challenges to assault weapons bans in both Maryland and Rhode Island. That really got our goat, the Maryland, the Fourth Circuit case. Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch were ready to take that. But they couldn't get, or felt they might not have gotten that fourth vote. Kavanaugh has already hinted, dropped a very serious hint that the court might tackle the AR-15 issue soon, likely within the next session or two, which is a good thing. And he went as far as saying that these rifles are in common use by law-abiding citizens and thus protected by the Second Amendment. So what that is a signal, ladies and gentlemen, that good things are coming down the pike our way. And like you and me, we want it all today. We just have to be patient. It's that simple. So as we head into the rest of this show today, as I said, I say call it a packed lineup. Stephen Gutowski is going to be here. He's doing great work over at the Reload. We're going to break down some of these wins in quotes in detail about what's next for the Second Amendment in the courts. Fifth Circuit, we're going to talk about issues there because DOJ has let the time lapse that they could appeal a ruling on 18 to 21-year-olds. If you live in Texas, Mississippi, or Louisiana, 18 to 20 years old, you are now constitutionally right to buy a firearm at a handgun at 18 to 20 years old. Why didn't the DOJ, keep in mind, this is Trump's DOJ, why didn't they appeal that ruling to the Supreme Court? Because the DOJ lost the case. Remember, it was Biden's DOJ. We won that case back in January. But Trump's DOJ just allowed that time for the appeal to just fade away. So no longer an appeal. And we'll break down why. What does the court say? Why, or what is the DOJ signaling by letting that go? Should they have appealed it, the Trump administration? Knowing a 6-3 majority on the court likely would have made it the law of the land? And if that's the case, why didn't they do that? Well, there's a lot to unpack there. Likely because the Trump administration didn't want to have to go into court and fight against our Second Amendment rights under Trump's new edict. Because there are other cases coming up behind that. Second Amendment Foundation's involved in a lot. The Fourth Circuit just upheld a ban on 18 to 20-year-olds. So now you have a legit circuit split, which the Supreme Court likes to hear. Maybe the DOJ didn't want to go at it at the federal level. Maybe they're waiting for a state case to work its way up. I don't know. We'll talk about that with Stephen Gutowski. So as I said, as we head into the rest of the show, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to break down these wins in detail with Stephen, talk about what's next for the Second Amendment. And gosh, I wish I could take your calls today, but that doesn't happen on the program. I would love to hear from you. So here's what I'm going to tell you to do. If you don't have Telegram, get it and get in the chat. Head over to armedamericanradio.com or .org. Get in the chat. We watch this stuff live. Make your voice heard. If we get something good, we're going to read it live on the air. But before we go to this next break, let me just leave you with this. The Second Amendment isn't just words on paper, ladies and gentlemen. It's the backbone of our liberty, the shield that protects every other right we hold dear. Every victory we just talked about briefly, from California courts to the Senate and the House, is a testament to the power of you as an American standing together to defend what's ours. So you have to keep fighting, keep speaking out, and keep listening right here on Armed American Radio as we defend your right to keep and bear arms. We'll be back after this short break. More with Stephen Gutowski from The Reload. Don't go away.
The long-awaited.
I am going to try something with the camera. I don't know if it'll work. All right, so I don't know why that camera is not working. Doesn't make sense to me, but what can I tell you? All right, so I don't know why that camera is not. Doesn't make sense to me, but what can I tell you? Let me get a text up that just shows it's audio only. Don't know why. Let me know when Steven's in.
Steven's on hold.
All right.
$30.
Might as well keep that spinning logo up.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason on KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, and you're tuned into the Armed American Radio Network. Now let's get back to the man himself, Mark Walters.
Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues right here on the Patriot Mobile microphone here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. Kahr Firearms Group studios are lit up for you. It's all brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Join them, please. National Rifle Association, NRA.org/AAR. If you sign up for a 1 to 3 year membership, you get a very cool range bag. If you sign up for a 5-year or life membership, you get the 10x42 National Rifle Association binoculars. They are for you only from the NRA. You won't find them out as a promotion anywhere else. They're allocated to you. And when they're gone, they're gone. We started out with about 720 of them. They are going to go quick. At the end of this giveaway, whenever the NRA says so, one of you who joined, because we're keeping a record of you, one of you is going to win a second range bag filled with other partner sponsorship swag in that second range bag, and it's going to be worth a couple grand. So take advantage of that opportunity. Check out all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. If you like to watch on video, we appreciate you doing so. I've kept the spinning logo up simply because, for whatever reason, the camera is not showing my mug. Maybe that's a good thing, but you've got audio only. And after all, it is what, Greg?
That's going to be a radio show.
It's a radio show. So enjoy watching the audio and the spinning, very cool Armed American Radio logo. Let's go to Stephen Gutowski, founder of The Reload. Stephen, welcome in. Happy Independence Day, brought to you by Citizens with Guns. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. We have a lot to uncover with you today. Did you feel this week that you were working harder than normal? Because you got a lot up there. There's a lot. A lot happened over the last couple of weeks, brother. I think you'll agree.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very busy.
So let's talk about the National Firearms Act. Let's talk about some of what you've written over at The Reload. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can join The Reload like I did. It's really inexpensive to do so, and you're going to get good, solid, sober reporting on the Second Amendment. Examining the silencer tax cut in Trump's budget bill. Let's go there. What are your thoughts? I'm just going to throw it out. What do you believe happened from beginning to end?
Well, look, I think bottom line, it's a significant change to federal gun law, which is not something that happens very often. I understand it's obviously not everything that gun rights advocates were hoping to get. And I think the level of disappointment might be based in some way on what your expectations were going on in and how informed you were of what the likelihoods were. We reported it was always going to be not a sure bet that you could get these items delisted through reconciliation, that there was likely to be a problem once you got to the Senate parliamentarian. I know it's very, inside baseball stuff, but
it is.
This is why it matters in the end, because it impacts this kind of, the outcomes here. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to see a lot more people buying silencers and short barrel shotguns and rifles and even the old any other weapon categories, sort of king guns and pen guns and all kinds of wacky stuff is in there. So, that you don't, as I said earlier, you don't get changes to federal gun law very often. I mean, this is probably the first really significant one. You could even go back as far as loosening gun laws go. I mean, there was, carrying in national parks happened under at one point during the Obama administration, and then before that, you got like the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. That was 2005,
right?
20 years ago.
Hard to believe, man. We're getting old. Time is flying. I hadn't put it in that in that time capsule perspective in a while, but you're right. That was 20 years ago, the PLCAA. But this is a rare move. And I was kind of couching this in my opening remarks in the first two segments solo. Is it a victory? I guess it depends on how you look at it. It's a partial victory for sure, and I'll take that partial victory.
Yeah.
The absolutist says, hell no, it's not a victory if we couldn't get it all. And believe me, those tweets are out there, those comments are out there in forums and everything else. And I get it. We want everything now. So what do we have to do now? Well, as you know, Second Amendment Foundation, National Rifle Association, FPC, are now going to sue. Because the National Firearms Act registration scheme, without a tax, it's always been unconstitutional. This just makes it unconstitutional-er, to make up our own word. Okay?
And this actually was a consideration from the beginning, as far as, the removing the or zeroing out the tax, making it $0. There was some consideration in Congress, and on the House Ways and Means Committee did think about the implication that might actually make it easier to challenge in court. And, I don't know how there's actually dueling cases now, right? There's two cases. GOA has one, and then NRA and SAF, FPC have one with the American Suppressor Association. So there's a lot of effort being put into challenging this law now under this new language. And, you do kind of wonder, what is a federal judge going to make of a tax that is $0 that comes with all these extra additional requirements, the registration and you're not being able to cross state lines without informing, the ATF in the case of short barrel shotguns and rifles at the very least. And, we haven't seen that idea challenged before. We have seen $0 taxes in the NFA.
Right.
There's some, if you're transferring to a gunsmith or something like that, there are ways to, at least temporarily, to do a $0 transfer. But, and we did see it with the pistol brace rule. There was a sort of $0 amnesty for registration of those. That didn't seem to play a huge role in the lawsuits, but it wasn't the focus of them. And now it's going to be the focus, and it'll be interesting to see how a judge makes sense of all this.
It's going to be very hard to uphold the National Firearms Act as it pertains to suppressors and SBRs and any other weapons at this point without that tax in place. And I think this has very serious legs. And, I know these groups were looking at doing this. This was obviously planned from the get-go, I think. But it's very important. Let me read a little bit from SAF, a joint statement on NFA registration challenge. With the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, which eliminates the excise tax on silencers and short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and any other weapons, Second Amendment Foundation and its partners have issued a joint statement indicating their intention to challenge the remaining registration requirements for the affected arms under the National Firearms Act is unconstitutional. Adam Kraut, the executive director of SAF, working under Alan Gottlieb, said this: the NFA is nothing more than a tax scheme which has imposed an unconstitutional burden on Americans since 1934. The registration of these items was only justified as the means to ensure taxes on them had been paid, Stephen, and you know that's the case. We were just talking about it. With the one big beautiful bill zeroing out the tax for silencers and short-barreled firearms, the registration scheme serves no other purpose than to create an unlawful barrier to keep people from exercising their Second Amendment rights. Our intention with this new lawsuit is to completely remove these barriers. And in that joint statement, and I failed to mention the ASA, the American Suppressor Association, as well, joining in here. So what you have is the ASA, the NRA, the FPC, and the Second Amendment Foundation joining together to eliminate the NFA essentially altogether. Now, of course, machine guns is a whole different story. All right, that's another battle in and of itself. But for right now, suppressors and short-barreled rifles are the ones that we're looking at, neither of which should be included in an NFA anyway, Stephen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, technically you're paying a tax. It's just that the tax is $0, which doesn't make a lot of sense, obviously. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it gets to the core of this idea that the NFA is based on Congress's power to levy taxes. But, you know, I don't know what the case law is on levying a $0 tax, right? Like, does that stand up in court? Does Congress have the power to basically impose other kinds of regulations with the excuse of taxation when they're not actually trying to collect revenue, right? Like, how is that going to hold up?
Well, think of it in terms of levying an income tax at $0. Is it a tax? So it begs a lot of questions, no doubt about it. We're going to wrap this portion up when we come back with Stephen Gutowski, founder of The Reload, thereload.com. You want to join over there, folks, and get all the inside dope as a member exclusive. Get on the email list, get the newsletters every day like I do. Very powerful stuff. Then we're going to go to the DOJ and the Fifth Circuit. Fascinating. And we'll break that down. Interesting stuff. We'll be right back with Stephen. So, Greg, you with me?
Yeah.
So I was telling you about that barbecue. Hold on one second. I have more smokers at the house than I know what to do with. And I just recently added the small green egg because I'm not cooking for the neighborhood that much anymore, right? So the Lang barbecue cooker, which is enough to put 8 racks of ribs, 10 pork butts on it, I'm just not using, and it's expensive to feed because you got to feed it with good high-quality wood. And I'm not going to sit there and feed it all day every 45 minutes down by the creek in the holler behind the ranch here for one butt, okay? So I was serving, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had 8 people, just family over. So I took an 11-pound, 12-pound Boston butt. And I thought, well, I'll put that thing on at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, no. About 11 o'clock at night, I started thinking about that, and that thing had just been getting happy with some rub and some injection in it. So I fired that thing up at 12:30, got it to 225 at 12:30 in the morning, and I threw that 12-pound butt on, and it smoked, I guess, till about 6:30 or 7 when I took it off and wrapped it. And threw some, and guys, this is a secret barbecue trick that if you don't know, you want to take advantage of. A lot of barbecue pit masters don't tell you this, but cover the shit out of it with strips of butter. I use salted butter. You can use unsalted. It doesn't matter. But get one of those like big Amish rolls and slice off hunks of butter and put it on the top of that pork butt and then wrap that thing tight. That butter just gets in there and, oh, good heavens, man. Big secret for the championship cooks. They just don't talk about it that often. Some of you probably know that. But that thing came off about 1:30 in the afternoon at a perfect 205 degrees. And I wrapped it, let it sit till about 3, and then reheated it just briefly after I pulled it. It was just freaking incredible. Like I said, Eastern Q sauce, apple cider vinegar. Yeah, you guys know what Eastern barbecue sauce is. Anybody in Eastern North Carolina gets it. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best, but that's an ongoing battle. You put whatever you want on it, makes it taste good to you. Alabama sauce, whatever. I love Big Bob Gibson's red sauce, but threw that Eastern Carolina sauce on there top it with some coleslaw and just some cheap buns from Costco. That's just the way to go, man. Ugh. Very, very good stuff. So good, I have none left. Besides, I grilled Mexican street corn recipe, corn on the cob. Wow. White sauce, some Parmesan, some seasoning. Good old American Southern barbecue, folks. Good stuff. Played a bunch of guitar this weekend. Worked on my solo lead chops.
Oh, here we are.
This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you hear me talk about this often. If you carry a firearm for self-defense, you have run through your mind multiple times hypothetical situations, and that's a good thing. You should. But it's never going to unfold the way you think it's going to unfold in your mind. Maybe you get lucky and it does. Maybe it's a clear-cut case. But likely, it's not. And folks, there's a piece out I'm going to be talking about this week on, it was out on Fox News, but it has a lot to do with what we've been talking about. And it's a deadly social media trend which threatens kids. It was a Fox report. Homeowners defending themselves from kids that are coming up and kicking in doors, which has been running around social media, getting a lot of people in trouble. What's going to happen? You remember when I was a kid, you used to do the ding-dong ditch thing. Stephen Gutowski joined me on this one. You know, you ring doorbells when you were kids, right? That was a big deal before phones and social media. We used to ring a doorbell and run away from the neighbors, and neighbors all thought it was funny when we were little. And then we got a little older and got gutsy.
We used to,
what'd you do?
We used to put forks. Now I was, Christian family kid, like, Bible study kid, but we used to put forks in people's lawns, disposable. You go out and put like 100 of them, stick them in the ground.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a little bit. I had never done that. Maybe TP a house from time to time was as maybe as violent as I got, but nonetheless, this is leading. It's just leading to a dangerous situation where people thinking their homes are being broken into, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because people are going to get shot. You kick my door in the middle of the night, you're going to get shot. I'm going to tell you that right up front. I'm not going to hesitate to shoot you. And if you're a stupid kid doing a TikTok challenge, that's not going to work out well for you in my state. But if you live behind the blue wall and maybe you're not in a stand your ground state, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be investigated. Even in a red state, there's going to be an investigation. You're not entitled to an attorney during an investigation. Attorneys on retainer, if you are signed up with Attorneys on Retainer, you have an attorney to work through the investigation with you to get rid of it because you are defending yourself lawfully, even though it's a dopey kid doing a stupid TikTok challenge. So, folks, think about these things. All right? There's a safety net for you. It's attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. You get $50 off. It's $35 a month. You have an attorney at $35 a month to help you through any investigation should something like that happen to you in any self-defense case, no matter what it is. And when I saw that on Fox, I sent it to myself because I want to spend some time talking about that. It's incredibly dangerous. And if you're a kid listening to the show or a parent with kids that are doing this, put a stop to it now. Because you do it at the right house. I say right house, not wrong house. That kid's going to wind up getting shot. So, guys, there's protection for you. Attorneys on Retainer. .us. Don't find yourself in a bad situation and not be able to have an attorney after it's too late. Okay, it's not necessary. Attorneysonretainer.us/AAR and take advantage of that fantastic deal from this amazing partner. Stephen, Fifth Circuit, 18 to 20-year-olds. Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, 18 to 20-year-olds, because the case was settled in January. It was a Biden-era case. It was won in January, and Trump's DOJ has elected not to appeal. Now, that's open for a lot of discussion. So let's have that discussion with the remaining minutes that we have. Why didn't the Trump administration appeal that to the Supreme Court when the Trump administration knows that we have a 6-3 majority? Is it because they didn't want to argue an anti-gun position? What's your gut on this? Because there's a lot of ways to unpack this. Take it away.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Well, first off, I'll just say we don't know for sure because they haven't said. They haven't responded to requests for comment, and they didn't file anything with the court to explain why they decided not to appeal. So we can't say for absolute sure why they did one way or the other. Now, they did file what we've seen a lot of in these Second Amendment cases since President Trump handed down his executive order telling the DOJ to reassess its positions and make sure they're pro-Second Amendment. So they did file those briefs, and so you could one possibility is that they think the law is unconstitutional under Second Amendment and they don't want to defend it anymore. So that would be the most pro-gun,
which makes sense based on Trump's directive and initiative. It makes sense to go with that. But go ahead.
Could be. It could be. It is a rare thing. The DOJ traditionally, in the vast majority of cases, will defend a federal law regardless of what the president might politically think about it. But very occasionally it will happen where they'll say we can't find a way to justify this constitutionally. And so, but if they are doing that, they're not saying it. The other possibility is it's an interesting trend we've seen from the DOJ, which is they're much more eager to take pro-gun positions against state laws.
Right.
You've seen this a number of times, even intervening in cases that they're not a party to. They'll come in on the gun rights group side of the case and say, "Hey, we agree with we agree with the pro-gun view on this." And that happens when there's a state law involved. We've seen that several times. They're a little bit less aggressive when it comes to federal laws. We've seen them continue to defend a number of federal gun laws, not necessarily super controversial ones. Felon in possession law is the most common gun law. Now, obviously, there's a fight over things like nonviolent felons and whether they should be disarmed for life, and there's a big, a bunch of cases around that. But we've seen them be a little bit less aggressive in going after the federal gun laws and a little more willing to defend them. Even, for instance, the National Firearms Act, silencers, prosecution over an unregistered silencer, and down in the Fifth Circuit, the DOJ changed its position to say, well, maybe silencers are protected by the Second Amendment in some form, but they still argued the National Firearms Act is constitutional because it's a lesser burden on the right because it's not a total ban. So, that it's not what, you're going to see from SAF or NRA in court in that regard. So it could be that they don't want to go up to the Supreme Court and risk losing there because they still think the law is viable. We saw that with the nonviolent felon case with Ryan Range, the guy who lied to get, on tax stamp. He committed tax stamp fraud. He lied to get tax stamp in the 90s, and he's been banned from owning guns ever since. And he won his case in the Third Circuit, and the DOJ under Trump decided not to appeal that case. And they explained to the Senate, there's a letter to the Senate where they said, well, we felt that the case was narrow enough that it didn't need to be appealed and it doesn't impact other current law. And they don't think that but they still disagreed with the Third Circuit's holding. So, it's not in every case that they're going to the most, hard fought Second Amendment view, especially in these federal law instances.
And now with the very, very few seconds that we have remaining, I want to point out, ladies and gentlemen, that the Fourth Circuit has upheld the 18 to 20-year-old ban. So we now have a true split in the circuits. And as you wrote about over at the Reload, this makes this very ripe for the Supreme Court. The administration may very well know that that's what's going to happen, and they decided to back off. But as you said, you've reached out. You didn't get a response. No one has. So, Stephen, we'll follow it over at the Reload. Thank you, brother. Happy Independence Day weekend brought to you by Citizens with Guns. I hope you had a good one with you and yours, and thank you for being here. We appreciate everything you do. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Stephen Gutowski, thereload.com. That's a place you should visit and sign up for. I'm proud to say I was like one of the first 10 or 15 members over there when the site first started to support Stephen, and I've never looked back. Great place to go to get great information every single day from Stephen Gutowski. When we come back, Dr. John Lott will be here live from Brazil. Don't turn the dial. We'll be back right after this.
You just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association on the Armed American Radio Network.
All right, guys, we're going to take a biology break. We'll be back here. We'll keep the mics open for you. Back in just a second. is like, you remember the old Pace? Was it what was it? The Mexican sauce? New York. That stuff's made in New York City. Remember that? Remember those commercials?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, barbecue don't come from New York City, dude. It comes from the Carolinas and down south where it's made, man. I once had a guy try to put cheese on a pulled pork sandwich for me up north. I'm like, what are you doing? Put cheese on that. Ooh, slap your mama on that one.
I don't know. I had someone try to argue with me about cheese on apple pie, and I just looked at them like they were a little crazy.
Now, I've heard of that before. I've seen apple pie served with cheese, not on it. Maybe they would, but apples and cheese is an appetizer sometimes. Apple and cheddar cheese. You can put that on pie. I'm sorry. Yeah, side of ice cream on that's good with me. I mean, I'm all about to each his own, but come on, man. A slice of American cheese on a pulled pork sandwich. Where are you from? You must be from New York City. Even people in Florida know you want good barbecue, you got to go south to get it. So they got to go north of the Florida border to get good barbecue. And that's not necessarily true from the change. There's a lot of people down there that know how to make barbecue, but some of their barbecue chains down there, No. Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. Even Virginia's got some good barbecue. That's just me.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Kahr Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center on the 6-hour Platinum microphone. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Independence Day Weekend Edition. The Monster Cast continues now. If you're just joining us, welcome in. If you're on one of our new affiliates around the nation, welcome to the broadcast for the first time. Glad you're with us. Hope you're enjoying the show as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. And remember, Independence Day weekend is brought to you by citizens with guns. Don't ever forget that one. Ask the British. They'll tell you that. We've either kicked their butts twice or saved their butts twice. You can figure that out by going back to civics. Greg in Dallas, Texas. Welcome in, my brother. How you doing?
Not too bad. Here we are, hour two.
Here we are, hour two. Buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. The time is just going to fly by. It always does. Lots to cover. Our next guest coming up is Dr. John Lott. We'll get to him in just a moment. You can listen to the show on X, right? I'll just go ahead and get the spiel out because the video, you can't see my mug. You see the spinning logo. But nonetheless, you can listen to the audio there. We're not sure why the video's not working, but it is, after all, a national radio show being heard on hundreds of radio stations around the nation. So there's that. But you can watch the show on X. You can watch us over at Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. You can watch us over at Rumble at Armed American Radio. You can watch us on YouTube at Armed American Radio. And you can watch us at armedamericanradio.com or .org. You'll get audio only, but you'll see that cool spinning Armed American Radio logo while you're listening to the program. Or if you want to just listen to the show and the spinning logo bothers you, you can just listen to us on your local radio stations where we're being carried. Or you can click listen live at armedamericanradio.com or .org, and it will bring up the radio version. It actually comes to you from the AM 930, the Patriot feed down in Sarasota, Florida. So you got that feed coming to you. So I guess that does it. Greg, where can people participate in the chat?
The chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
And that'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. The Monster Cast continues, brought to you by the National Rifle Association here at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center. Make sure to check out all of our great partners that make the show possible every single day. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. These range bags that we're giving away in conjunction with the National Rifle Association, ladies and gentlemen, are flying off the shelves. If you join the National Rifle Association at nra.org/AAR, or you can just go to my page and click on the link, and it will take you right to that landing page, or you can type it in yourself, whatever you want to do, or go wherever you want. Just use that AAR promo code. You will get, not win, but you will get a free range bag with a 1-year to 3-year membership if you sign up for either of those. I joined and rejoined, I should say, for a 5-year membership. You can do 5-year or life, and you're going to get the NRA 10x42 binoculars, and they're super, super high quality. Both of them are. And one of you, at the end, when the bags are all gone and we've depleted them all, one of you is going to win a second range bag, a different range bag filled with swag from tons of our other partners. That includes Kahr arms, that includes crossbreed holsters, ammo, Emerson, all of it. Heaven's Harvest is throwing in 12 meal kits. So it's going to be a very cool deal. One of you will win those. So congratulations to those that will. But go ahead and put your name in there. Real simple. Join the National Rifle Association or rejoin for one of those tiers of memberships. Get the range bag or get the binoculars. Let's go to Dr. John Lott, who is joining us. And John, I want to thank you. I forgot where you were going to be, and we had our time zones all messed up, but you're joining us live from Brazil right now. So tell us what you're doing in Brazil, and welcome to the show, and thank you for being here. I know it's an hour later there than it is here, so I really do appreciate you taking the time from Brazil. What's going on down there, John, and welcome to the show. Happy Independence Day, brother.
Happy Independence Day weekend to you, too. Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm in Brazil. I'm going to be going to Argentina tomorrow. Yesterday, I gave a talk at a SHOT Show equivalent that they have down in Sao Paulo. I guess they had like 40,000 people show up.
Wow.
Over a couple of days for it. So, I mean, at least on a per capita basis, that's pretty similar to the NRA annual meetings that are there. And it was a good turnout. I mean, they're having a very difficult time down here in Brazil. Lula, the current president, is putting in new regulations which are going to confiscate the guns that people have. And, you know, he's doing things like censoring his political opponents on social media. Bolsonaro, who was the previous president, is banned from running for election again for, I think it's like 6 years or something. And his son actually left Brazil and is in the United States right now, or at least one of his sons, because the government was threatening to arrest him. So, you know, it's kind of everything that I guess people were fearing could happen in the United States, only it's actually happening here in terms of kind of using lawfare to go after your political opponents. And so anyway, I basically gave a talk that said, look, reducing crime, and the crime here in Brazil is crazy high. You know, the homicide rate's about 23 per 100,000.
Wow.
You know, the interesting, I mean, compared to the United States, which is, it looks like this last year was a little bit below 5 per 100,000, about 4.9 something. You know, the problem is the police are extremely important, but the police can't be there all the time. And what I tried to explain to them is you can make it risky for criminals to commit crime in multiple different ways: higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences, the death penalty. But you can also make it riskier for criminals by allowing individuals to protect themselves when the police aren't able to be there. You know, the police response times are very slow here. In Argentina, where I'll be going tomorrow, in Buenos Aires, in central Buenos Aires, it can take, for emergency responses, it can take 10 to 15 minutes for the police to arrive. If you're outside the central area, all the statistics, well, the only thing they say is it can take substantially longer, depending upon things like traffic and other things that are going on. And so the question is, how do you protect people in Argentina? One of the bizarre things is the robbery rate. I mean, I can't even believe some of these numbers. So in the United States, the robbery rate may be about 60 per 100,000. In Argentina, it's like 1,068 per 100,000. So, it's they actually have a lower murder rate, slightly lower murder rate in the United States and Argentina, but some of these other crimes, like property crimes, are like 5 times higher. Burglaries are also much, much higher in Argentina than the United States. Property crimes in Brazil, I mean, you drive around and you ask the person who's driving you, can we lower the windows on the car? And they'll warn you not to do that because when you come to a stop or something, somebody may try to reach in and rob you. So, it's anyway. So there are things to be thankful for in the United States. But the debate here in Brazil is important for the United States. When Bolsonaro became president and was promising to go and make it easier for people to own guns, he ended up having a 6-fold increase in gun ownership rates in Brazil after he became president. But you had everybody from the New York Times to international publications going and warning that was a recipe for disaster, that Brazil's already high murder rate was going to soar. And yet it fell by like 25% rather than going up. And now that Lula has reversed some of this, we only have data for 2023, but the murder rate has started to go back up again here in the country. So,
well, John,
anyway,
it's interesting. I know we're going to hear from Greg. We're going to take a break. Let me throw some statistics out, ladies and gentlemen, so you know and can make some comparisons here. At some of the numbers that John just gave you, over 1,000 robbery rate. Think about that. Argentina's population as of today is roughly 45,853,000 people, compared to Brazil's population of 212 million, compared to the U.S. at 320 plus million people. So keep that in mind when John says per capita. Keep those numbers in the back of your mind. That's an incredibly, ridiculously high robbery rate in a country like Argentina. Now, Greg, I know we're getting ready to take a break. John, I'll say this before we go to the break. I understand you're in Argentina, you have to eat a steak while you're there. Supposedly they have the best steak in the world.
Okay.
We'll see if you can do that. Don't get robbed on the way. But for gosh sakes, you've got to try that. Some of our good friends have made that clear to me. When you talk to John tonight, tell him he's got to get a steak. And a couple of those friends are pilots that fly down there a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, Dr. John Lott, 3 more segments. Lots to cover with him. And I want to go back to Brazil because it's interesting to unpack these and compare these numbers to the U.S. We'll be right back. Those are crazy high numbers. Holy crap. Wow. That's nuts. You guys keep checking the camera. It is not working, so we'll just keep the spinning logo. You got audio, so that's good. Wish I could tell you otherwise. Not coming from our end, so. The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you definitely want to do that. Please help us. National Rifle Association, American Suppressor Association, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, locking horns to rid us of the unconstitutional National Firearms Act. These groups are working together now. That wouldn't have happened as overtly as it is now under the previous management at NRA, and it is now. This organization is going the right direction. We need you on board with us. Please join or rejoin the National Rifle Association. And as I've mentioned before, and I'm going to continue to mention ad nauseum, I want you to take advantage of this and get that free range bag or get those binoculars. 1 year, 3 year membership. 1 year, $35. 3 year membership, $85. $125 for 5 years, and $1,000 for a life membership. Okay? Great bargain. Get the free stuff. We all love free stuff. Take advantage of it. One of you is going to win that nice package. Please help us join the National Rifle Association or rejoin that huge organization. Believe me, you would not have a Second Amendment if it were not for the NRA. Bad management over the last few years, trust me, I was highly critical of it, but I was never critical of the NRA itself. This country needs a strong NRA, and in order for it to be strong, it requires your participation. $35 a year. Those of you who say, I don't like the way the organization did things, I completely get it, but it's worth $35 to help us move forward. You don't have to donate anymore if you don't want to, but join us for that $35, please. NRA.org/AAR, and you can find all of our great partners. Ammo Squared over there is doing amazing work. AmmoSquared.com. Start stacking ammo. I've got thousands of rounds over there. At some point, I'm going to take a distribution whenever I want, but you can check it out at AmmoSquared.com. Clean your guns with Barrel Buddies. All of our great partners. You can find them all at ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Dr. John Lott, welcome back. My brother, CrimeResearch.org, ladies and gentlemen. John, let's go back to the Brazil thing for a minute. I think when I look at these demographics, these numbers, it is actually mind-boggling because we hear from the left every single day that this only happens in America, that America's crime rate's through the roof, that America has a gun epidemic. We've got all this nonsense going on, but you give us these numbers from other countries. Now, one of the things that I found interesting was you said that Lula is, going to confiscate guns, meaning he's going to take them away from people who currently have them. Nothing's grandfathered in. And the second thing is kind of ties together. I'm surprised they let you speak, to be honest, if that's what they're doing and, pulling the whole, censorship nonsense.
Right. Well, the whole SHOT Show, I guess, has had a difficult time continuing to run. This is their fifth year having it. And, at least in talking to the people that are organizing it, it's been kind of nip and tuck whether they were going to be able to go through and do it again. There's huge demand. As I say, over 40,000 people were there, and next year they would like to make it twice as large as what they have right now. But whether they're going to be able to actually even have it, I have no idea. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. So it's just a question of what happens. But, there's a lot of crime here. The police aren't able to go and protect people. They have fewer police per capita than the United States has. We have about 4.2 police officers for every 1,000 people. In Brazil, they have about 2.5 officers for every 1,000 people. When you consider the fact that, not everybody's on duty all the time, different shifts and what have you,
Right.
You're likely talking about less than one officer on duty to protect every 1,000 people out there. And, it's when you tell them that, police are important, but virtually always arrive on the crime scene after the crimes occurred, people definitely understand it here. But, it's more than just comparing the number of police to the number of people living in a country. You have to compare it to the number of crimes because, if you have so many more crimes occurring in Brazil than the United States, they have a lot of work, just trying to solve murders. I mean, if you have 23 murders for 100,000 people compared to slightly less than 5 in the United States, those are a lot of murders that already exist that the police are out there having to solve.
Do you know how many go unsolved, John, by any chance?
Oh, yeah. Very, very few get solved. I mean, I think it's less than 10% get solved. I can't remember the exact number, maybe about 9% or so.
Not shocking.
And so, if you have fewer police and you have more crimes that they have to go and solve, and it's just not homicides, the rape rate is about twice the rape rate in the United States. Robberies are about twice what they are in the United States. But, part of the problem is, and we've talked about this before, one of the things that determines whether or not people will even report crimes like rape or robbery in part depend on whether they think anything's going to be able to happen. And if you have these very high rates of crime and low rates that they get solved, a lot of people are going to say, what's the point of reporting the crime? So again, these are crimes that are reported to police, not the total. They don't have, in the United States, we have the National Crime Victimization Survey where we can go and point out that, only about 43% of violent crimes are reported to police. Only about 30% of property crimes are reported. We have no idea how many go unreported in Brazil or Argentina, but I suspect it's a significantly higher non-reporting rate than we have in the United States.
Well, a lot of questions here. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. They're called favelas, which are shanty towns or slums. And if you're in Sao Paulo, you've probably seen them as you were maneuvering around.
Well, Sao Paulo is a big place. It's like 12 million people, but if you include the greater area, it's like 22 million. It's a huge city.
Yeah.
I mean, you just drive along and just see one massive apartment building after another. I haven't seen the shanty towns, but I can imagine what they're like.
Well, I guess the question that leads me to is when it comes to confiscation is, how do they think they're going to go into these favelas, which are huge, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, I don't think people in those areas own guns. I don't think they're, it's costly to go through the process.
Right.
I don't think people who live in one of the points I was trying to make to them is that in the United States, there are two groups of people who benefit the most from owning guns. Poor people, particularly minorities, who are the most likely victims of violent crime. And those who are relatively weaker physically, women and the elderly.
Yeah.
So, given the licensing rules and the cost of going through it, they make, the left may claim that they care about poor people, and promise them all sorts of free things here in Brazil and other places. But I don't believe that they're able to go and actually protect them. And at the same time, those are the very people that they're preventing from being able to protect themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We make these comparisons. This is what the left wants for you in the United States of America. Now, when we come back from this break, we're going to come back to the United States, and we're going to get some ideas from John as to what the federal government is up to, what happened with the National Firearms Act. We'll get John's take on all of that, what he thinks might be happening with the upcoming lawsuit that's joined now with the FPC, ASA, National Rifle Association, and the Second Amendment Foundation. We'll be back with John right after this. Interesting. Let me check something on this camera again. Hold on. So, for some reason, that defaulted to studio display camera. Okay, mics are back up. Guys, we're going to cut the video screen off for you, and we're going to try to reboot it at the top of this hour coming up and see if we can get your video for you for the roundtable, just for shits and grins, because we can.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues. Show is halfway over now. If you're just joining us, welcome in. If you're rejoining us, thank you very much for being here. And you can visit all of our great partners that make the show possible at armedamericanradio.com. Please support them. That's why we've been here for 17 years. We've never missed a Sunday show for you in 17 years. A remarkable run, and we could not do that without all of our great partners. You can view every one of them at armedamericanradio.com. I mentioned this during the break. I'll mention this to the live audience as well. If you like to watch the video, we're going to try to reboot that system for you and see if we can get it back up for you for the roundtable coming up so you get a visual on us. We'll see if we can't fix that. We'll give it a shot. But after all, it is a radio show. Regardless, we're going to try to fix that for you because lots of you like to watch the show. In addition to that, we're talking with Dr. John Lott, founder of crimeresearch.org, who is coming to us live. I was remiss, didn't mention this in the last segment, but John is coming to us live from Brazil, and we'll be traveling to Argentina tomorrow. Very high crime rate areas that are playing with gun rights down there, and it's everything they have down there and are trying to do down there or going to do that the American left wants for you here in the United States. John, let's bring it back to the United States because a lot of, I don't know, I guess I can call it strange stuff went on with the NFA, the one big beautiful bill. We start with the House, added in the suppressor deregulation through the FFA, gutted it for suppressors. Senate surprisingly went in and added short barrel rifles as well. House or the Senate parliamentarian, a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat installed in 2012, Elizabeth McDonough by Harry Reid, still there. Clearly, in my book anyway, a partisan move. I could be wrong on that. Maybe she honestly felt that the Byrd rule, it wouldn't pass the Byrd rule, whatever. She serves at the pleasure of the Senate Majority Leader, and she's still there. A lot of people are screaming for her to be taken out. She can be overridden. She doesn't make the rules. So what's your take on all of this? We went back to the House without that in it. The House tried to add it back in. Representative Clyde from Georgia made a gallant effort to do so. We love Clyde here in the state of Georgia. But it was pulled out because they didn't want the hassle and they wanted it on Trump's desk by the 4th. So a lot of politics played there. I'd really like your thoughts on this.
So my understanding is there's basically two parts to this. One is the tax that they have, the $200 tax, and the other one is all the registration rules that are there. It's my understanding that the tax has been eliminated,
yes,
but the registration rules are still going to be there. And look, for suppressors, we have like 3.5 million Americans that own, at least as of a year ago, legally owned and registered suppressors. My guess is that's going to increase much further with the elimination of that tax, which will put additional pressure to go and try to change things. I think her ruling at least has some reasonableness to it in terms of what the Berg rule is. Not that I don't want the whole thing removed for suppressors, but the point is that they're technically supposed to do things that only deal with taxes and spending rather than policy. And she was saying that removing the tax, that fits the tax part, and she allowed that back in, but going and getting rid of the registration and stuff is a policy decision. Look, do I think that she makes a lot of decisions that don't make much sense in terms of things that she cut out? Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of spending type things like on transgender surgery and what have you, limits that she removed, claiming that they were policy and not spending, even though it was something that money's being spent on. Things like trying to remove funding going to illegal aliens. There was stuff that she stopped on that. The problem that the Republicans face is that they've been very strong against getting rid of the filibuster. And I think the filibuster has protected us. One can only imagine what life would have been like under the Biden administration when they controlled the Congress and the Senate there if we didn't have the filibuster.
That would have been a nightmare. It would have been horrific. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have had, God only knows what types of guns control regulations and other things would have gotten through at that point on pure straight party line votes. But see, the thing is, if they go and just overrule her, which they can do, they could just do it on a simple majority vote saying, we disagree with her on what the rules are. You've essentially gutted the filibuster. So for example, when the Democrats were using budget reconciliation to get things through under Biden, one of the things they wanted to include was an increase in the minimum wage. Well, that's not exactly related to taxes and spending. And the same parliamentarian, knocked it out. But if they had just either replaced her or gone and just had a simple majority vote to change the rules on those things, they could have gotten that through, and essentially the filibuster would be meaningless. I mean, as it is, this has greatly reduced the role of the filibuster with this Berg rule that's there. And sometimes it works against you, sometimes it works for you having the filibuster. But I think overall, we're a much better country. We would be more like Britain or some other place if we didn't have the filibuster. I think I would strengthen it rather than weaken it further. And the Republicans are just concerned that if they, and I think this is one reason why Senator Thune, even before we got to the specifics here, had already said that they weren't going to kind of override the parliamentarian on decisions that she made, even though they know that she's a Democrat who was put in there by Harry Reid. Hopefully the Republicans will be in charge of things in the Senate when she retires, and so they can put in a parliamentarian that is more to their liking at that point.
Well, what angers a lot of people on our side, myself included, is we all know that if the Democrats had won the election, they would have put their boot on our neck. It's that simple.
Well, they were already saying they'd get rid of the filibuster.
Sure.
Now you have all these Democrats out there who are saying, no, you can't get rid of the filibuster. But just, 6 months ago, when they thought that they had, or I don't know, more than that, maybe 10 months ago, 12 months ago, when they thought that they had a chance, I think it was all the senators who were up for election were saying that all the Democrats were saying that they were in favor of gutting the filibuster.
Mm-hmm.
The two senators, Manchin and the woman from Arizona, who are no longer in the Senate, were the only two that kind of kept them from getting rid of the filibuster.
Well, yeah, and here, the problem is, if the Democrats could do it and they were in our situation, they would likely do it, and that's what angers a lot of us, because they don't play they play dirty pool. And I used the example last week on the show. You know, we all remember Harry Reid was asked by a reporter, "Well, you lied about the tax issue." He said, "Yeah, I did, but it worked." Okay, they're just dirty, and we know that they would do these things. That's what's got us rankled. I'm pragmatic. I understand that, you know, what you're saying, and I get that. You know, there's a part of me that is angry about it, but at this point right now, we just have to deal with what is, ladies and gentlemen. What happened, happened, and that's where we are, and that's why we're talking about it now. So the next step that we can take, John, as you know, is the Second Amendment Foundation in conjunction with the American Suppressor Association, Firearms Policy
Well, I think
Coalition,
they
and
actually have a reasonable chance.
They do.
I think they actually have a reasonable chance on winning that case. I mean, if you take Heller and look at the rules, there was no, registration of anything, basically, when you go back to 1792 or 1867.
I think
there
you
was no
Bruin,
registration that we had for anything that had anything to do with guns.
No question about it. John, we're getting ready to take a break. When we come back, I want to go back and touch on that, because in the long run, ladies and gentlemen, we have no choice but to deal. What is. Okay, we cannot refuse to accept that situation, so we move forward from where we are. Angry about it, but we have no choice, so we move forward. The beautiful part about it is, I guess I'll tell you when we come back from the break, I'll hint at it. Here's the deal. If we're successful in this lawsuit, the parliamentarian isn't going to matter, at least in this case here. And that would be good for all of us as American gun owners and patriots. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues from the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center here in the Kahr Firearms Group studios with John Lott from Brazil, live, heading to Argentina tomorrow right after the break. Don't go away. One more segment. Know that a self-defense incident can happen anytime. That's why you need Attorneys on Retainer. They're the only self-defense program backed by real attorneys who specialize in self-defense cases. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Welcome back indeed, and you should do that, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'm going to continue to repeat this. That is a no-brainer. If you carry a firearm, you can imagine having to use it. There will be an investigation. Do you want an attorney on your side, an entire team of attorneys that do nothing but specialize in self-defense cases? Attorneys on Retainer has you covered for $35 a month. It's that simple. The question is, why wouldn't you do that, honestly, for $35 a year? If you do like I did, it's $25 per family member, and it is worth every single penny because every one of my family members carries a firearm. They're all protected, myself included. You can be, and your family can be too. It's that simple. You're not entitled by law to an attorney during an investigation. With Attorneys on Retainer, you have one. You step back. It's like your accountant doing an audit. You don't have to worry about it. Let the accountants do it. Let the attorneys handle the investigation because you have attorney-client privilege instantly. AttorneysOnRetainer.us/AAR. Take advantage of the $50 off. Get an attorney on retainer for a measly $35 a month, because I can promise you, you will never find an attorney for $35 a month. And if you do, it's not an attorney that you want with your life on the line, meaning prison, okay? Think about it in those terms, because that's what could happen. We're going to talk about an example of this during the week on Armed American Radio. We'll likely do it tomorrow on the program. You're not going to want to miss the segment. These are things you need to think about. You can find them and all of our great partners. You can click on all those links right there at armedamericanradio.com. Dr. John Lott, welcome back in from Brazil. Again, thank you for being here. I know how busy you are. It's an hour later over there. I appreciate you being here. And you got a lot of traveling going on. But as I mentioned as we were leaving in that last segment, John, back here in the United States, if this lawsuit is successful, and I agree with you, there is a tremendous grounds for this suit. I could even see it going as far as the DOJ or the ATF saying, okay, guys, we're just not going to enforce this, and the NFA just going away for that reason. I'd rather win the lawsuit and have it codified. It's a done deal. That gets rid of the NFA, and the parliamentarian becomes a wash, right? At least in this case. So that would be a great outcome for us, right?
You know,
Short of legislation.
Ironically, it may have been better if we hadn't reduced the taxes on it, because I would have liked to have had the court speak out on whether you can have, if they say that there's a constitutional right to be able to go and have something like a suppressor or a short-barreled rifle, I'd like them to also say, can you tax something like that?
Right.
You go back and look at past Supreme Court decisions dealing with, like, the First Amendment on, you'd have a state like Louisiana impose maybe a 2-penny tax on newspapers. And the Supreme Court said you can't just impose a tax on newspapers. I mean, if you had a sales tax on everything, that would be one thing. But the power to tax a constitutional right is the power to destroy it, was their decision. And you would think if that applies to parts of the First Amendment, that would also apply to the Second Amendment. And so, ironically, I kind of almost wish that they could have left the tax on, so that part of the case, that would be part of the case too. But, at least I'm sure there are lots of people, though, that are happy that the $200 tax has been removed.
Oh, there's no question about it. I'm one of them, but I want the registration out as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to sales. I'd like to know what's happened to sales since this all started. Have their sales dropped to zero? Are people still going after it before the bill? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see those numbers, and eventually we will see those numbers, and the ASA will tell us, I'm sure. But it's an interesting turn of events all the way around. But I think this lawsuit, short of legislation, is what fixes the problem. And again, it's possible that this DOJ
how
not going to enforce
Trump's judicial appointments are.
Oh, huge.
We wouldn't be having this discussion if it wasn't for Trump being able to go and put the people on the court. We wouldn't have had the Bruin decision. If Trump had lost in 2016 and the Democrats had replaced Scalia and the other vacancies that opened up, and Kennedy and what have you, we would have had a very different Supreme Court. And you wouldn't have had Bruin, and you wouldn't have had lots of cases that we've been seeing.
No, that's completely valid, ladies and gentlemen, what John just said. Think of where we would be, but if not for, right? It would be horrific. Imagine what the country would look like. You'd have men in tutus dancing all over women's locker rooms all over the place in law by the Democrats. And they'd have nuked a filibuster to do it if they had to. Not to mention what they would have done with your guns. So let's make that very clear. John, we've got splits in the Fifth and the Fourth Circuit now with the under 21 laws. Now the Fifth Circuit is upheld now because the DOJ let the time for filing an appeal just fade out. That case was won in the Fifth Circuit for 18 to 20-year-olds in Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana in that Fifth Circuit. So if you live there at 18 to 20, you're going to be able to buy a gun. We'll see how that unfolds because the feds have said, no, we're not going to appeal it. But the Fourth Circuit just upheld it. We've got just a couple minutes. Let's talk briefly about that. I want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I mean, I think we owe a thanks to the Department of Justice for essentially agreeing with the decision in the Fifth Circuit there. I mean, I think their decision essentially codifies it. But one of the good things is you're getting some splits. If you need that for cases to get to the Supreme Court, that's been the big problem with the assault weapons ban. You've had all these Democrat states that have been passing the assault weapons ban have been in circuits that are controlled by the Democrats. Now, maybe the Ninth Circuit will eventually flip. I mean, the Democrats, I believe, only have a one-seat majority there. Though
you can thank Trump for that, too, by the way, in his first term for that.
Right, exactly. And there is one old Republican there who's kind of sided with the Democrats on many of these gun issues, who God only knows, I think the person's like in their late 80s or something, how long they'll be there. But if we still got 3.5 years. Maybe there'll be a couple of openings that they'll have there on the Democratic side of the seats, and they'll be able to flip the ninth. And if they do, then eventually you'll get cases be able to get to the Supreme Court. Hopefully before that, but at least.
It's going to be interesting to watch all this play out, ladies and gentlemen. As I said at the opening of the program,
30.
Yeah, we want everything today. We're not getting everything today, but each of these are a victory that adds up. In particular, what we were just talking about in the Fifth and the Fourth Circuit with this 18 to 20-year-old deal. It is interesting. If the DOJ was confident that they'd get a Supreme Court ruling and wipe it out nationwide, you have to ask the question, why didn't they appeal it? Of course, we talked about that with Stephen Gutowski in the first hour of the show. So if you missed that, go back and listen. He laid out several different options for that. John, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. CrimeResearch.org. Stay safe down there, okay, in your travels. Make sure to eat a fantastic steak. I can't wait to hear about it back here at the ranch. Ranch and steaks, they go together. John Lott, CrimeResearch.org, live for us today from Brazil, and he will be in Argentina. We'll bring John back next week and find out how that whole trip went and what it might mean for you, because the left in America wants everything he's down there talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter where we are. This is a fight around the world. It's a global battle, okay? Keep that in the back of your mind. Yes, I know we're concerned about what's going on here, but each of these things matter just like each individual case matters. Ladies and gentlemen, Armed American Radio's Monster Cast is going to continue at 6 minutes after the hour. If you're watching, I'm going to cut the video stream, bring it back up, and see if we can get you some video for you in the next hour. If not, we'll just go back to audio. We'll be back right after the break.